we're seeing, I think, a revolution in India in terms of growth, with cloud computing coming in and many data centers being built, but massive infrastructure being built over the last couple of years. And you're also starting to see some pretty big consolidation happening. We were one of the companies that just had an acquisition, but we think that there'll be quite a bit of consolidation happening over the next few months as we start to share infrastructure and get prepared for the next wave of the internet growth in India.
Infrastructure sharing is a big theme right now. Is that in order to consolidate, streamline things, because infrastructure has been the biggest complaint for multinationals for years now?
No, I think you're going to see towers, for example. I think you'll hear that we're going to do a tower consolidation play very, very shortly. But I think you're also going to hear about fiber consolidation and also many other what we call spectrum sharing opportunities also. And I think these are going to be things in India that allow these companies to propel themselves to the next generation of services, and they actually start to share infrastructure. And this is a natural evolution that happens in most of these markets. This happened in the United States, it happened in Europe, and you're going to start to see this in India as we start to get this hyper growth that requires sharing of infrastructure.
Yeah, and this is all part of the Digital India push that Prime Minister Modi
Modi's been pushing very, very hard.
Bill, Christine has a question for you from Singapore.
Hey, Bill, this is Christine.
Yes, Christine.
I got to ask you, you made an acquisition early November when you bought Sistema Scheim. I mean, I want to know, what are you hoping to extract out of the deal, and what other deals are you looking over in India?
Well, I think it's the first step in what we will do as three important transactions. This transaction allowed us to cement our worldwide, our India footprint for spectrum. But I think you'll also hear that we're going to do some key things in the infrastructure sharing space with our towers, and then you also will hear about some initiatives that we're going to do in the spectrum sharing. So this is really the first step, and what we see is three very, very strategic steps for the business over the next 3 to 4 months.
So, Bill, I'm very interested in, every country has its own issues, and India is not short of theirs as well. That affects, free trade and commerce. What effect have you seen on India as Modi's policies been? Is that helping you?
I think Modi's been, I think it's been a breath of fresh air, I think, into the Indian economy. And I think you'll start to see, he's 2 years in, you're going to see the next year and a half. I think you'll see a lot of these initiatives starting to come together. I think he's opened up, allowed consolidation to happen in the industry. He's encouraged foreign investment coming in, and he's actually made regulation understandable and transparent. I think these things, at least in my industry, I think you'll start to see a boost in terms of growth, and you'll start to see a real change in the industry and a real focus towards the next 10 to 15 years, whereas India in the past had largely been focused on day-to-day type initiatives, and you didn't really have the long-term investment for growth, which I think you'll see in India over this next period.
Bill, we've seen Prime Minister Modi go around the world really trying to push Make in India and also Digital India. A couple of weeks ago, he was in Silicon Valley. Right after that trip, a lot of the Silicon Valley tech giants came out with announcements. One of them was Google saying, we're going to bring free Wi-Fi for 500 train stations in India. When you hear announcements like that, do you look at that as competition or as an opportunity for partnership?
Well, I think I actually see it as a huge opportunity, and I think that many of the Silicon Valley firms have got technology that will help solve a lot of these challenges for the emerging markets. India is a great growth economy, but it still has challenges. About half its population still isn't on the internet. And a lot of the technology that's been adopted in Silicon Valley for cloud computing type applications is going to help that growth. And we think that this is a huge opportunity for us and a great chance to partner and grow. So I think the more, the better. It's going to be great for us.
So more players, more ideas, more private sector investment.
Exactly. I think, these are the types of things that spurred the growth in China over the last decade. I think these are the things that will spur India's growth over the next decade to 2 decades. I think Modi's really looking out in front and saying, how do I bring that technology into my country so that I can actually get growth?
Your strategy is to stay within emerging markets, to go into places, frontier markets like Myanmar. How has that experience been so far? How difficult is it?
Well, we've been pioneers. For the last 10 years, we've been dominating in the Middle East. We play across the South Asia area. We're also play a lot in Eastern Europe. We think these are the markets that will be the next 2 decades of growth. And when you look at multinational companies, these are the places that they need to solve. If you're in the service economy, you've got to find a way to be operating in India, in China, in Southeast Asia, and in Eastern Europe, and in the Middle East. And if you can operate and someone can help you do that, a company like ours we're going to be poised and ready to do that. So we're looking long on emerging markets, and we believe it's the place to be.
What are the biggest challenges when you go in? Because it's not easy to start from the ground up. And when you're talking about these frontier markets, you hear that term, the mobile leapfrog, the digital leapfrog, because for a lot of the population, 3 years ago, they didn't even have a cell phone. Now they've got a cell phone. So what are the challenges for you there?
Well, I think the challenges are you have to work with governments. You have to get them to see the bigger picture, which is how do I actually bring the service economy to my country? And I think different countries look at it differently because they're trying to preserve jobs or they're trying to create jobs in their domestic market. But I think, what we're seeing is if we bring internet services to a market, it tends to bring the market up, and that market then tends to liberalize more. And we've seen this in the Middle East, we've seen this in Eastern Europe, and we believe if you get a catalyst, which is the internet, into your market, it opens up new opportunities and growth opportunities for across the economy. And so we're pretty bullish that each one of these markets will eventually get there, and we're going to play the long game and try and be there early. That's our plan.
The long game, yeah, first foot advantage into that market.